How are people earning money in the creator economy? One fast growing way is by online coaching. Once you figure out how to grow an audience and monetize your brand yourself, you can start mentoring others on how to do it. My guest today is Arnie Ho, who did that in 6 months. If you want to follow his footsteps, you might want to hear this interview. So, to start off, Arnie, let's see if I get this right. You started about 6 months ago in January 24 from zero audience and zero online income. And now you have over a dozen coaching clients, you quit your 9 to 5, and you earn 10K per month. Is that right?
Yeah, I've got probably I've had probably 20 odd clients. Right now I've got probably about 15 people on the roster at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah, I stopped
And
working 9 to 5.
right. Now the question everyone wants to know is how do you do it?
I like it's interesting because if it's hard like when you get to this point you kind of think, oh yeah, it's not that hard, but then I actually read some of my old journal entries from when I started,
Yeah.
and I now put my mind back to when I actually started, and there's no way if someone told me at that time this is what my life would be, I would not have believed you at all. I'd be like, that's funny. Like, that's a funny dream. Yeah, to be honest, like it's a blend of many things. I think many things coming together.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a short answer. So
Right.
I don't know. Do you want the long answer? I don't even know what the long answer is, but
Yeah, okay, let's take
um,
it in parts. Like when you got
okay.
started, what was the original vision? What got you started?
So it's a typical story of Dan Coe, I guess.
Yeah.
Actually, I was going to I've written a post about this. It doesn't go into as much depth as this, but if I give like a bit of a longer version, like I was on a bit of a path of, self-improvement, which I think a lot of people do
Yeah.
before they end up getting Dan Coe on their YouTube feed, which, at the time I was like consuming a lot of self-improvement stuff. I was reading a lot of things. And eventually Dan Coe's head kept popping up on the YouTube feed. And I
Right.
tried to ignore it as much as
Yeah.
well, yeah. And eventually I succumbed to the 30-minute weird videos that he posts telling you that you should do more with your life and that all you need is to write and just 2 hours a day and it can transform your life. And, initially you're like, oh, okay, this is a bit interesting, like quite esoteric kind of stuff. It's like, and then eventually I got convinced, obviously, that
Right.
actually there's a future for this, which coincided with me. I think at the time I'd gone through a bit of transformation of like my mindset, my body. I was feeling a lot of energy, a lot that I could do. And so it got to a point where, okay, well, let's give this thing go. Like, let's really start this.
Yeah.
I got to the start of the year, or just before the start of the year, I'm like, okay, let's like, and I was journaling at the time, and I
Mm.
was like, okay, let's actually give this a go. New year, let's start. Let's start fresh. Send something out there. Let's see if I can turn this writing thing into a actual thing. And I actually wrote some goals down. Um, and my goals was in I think I had 7 years, 7 year goal. So in 7 years
Wow.
that I wanted to become a published author, so a best-selling published author.
Nice one.
And I wrote that I wanted to have made $1 million in a year, and trying to think something else, maybe 1 million followers. I think I
Wow.
had 1 million followers listed down. I mean, and that was only because, like, I mean, Dan Crow talks about like setting goals, and at the time, I'd already just read a book called The One Thing. It's a really
Mm.
good book by Gary Keller,
Yeah.
and yeah, he talks about like setting a big goal, and then you kind of like make sure every day you're moving the dial, and so I was really ready. Like I was like, yes, I'm ready to do this, and when you're working 9 to 5, like you don't have that motivation. So I was like, let's just give this a go. And then obviously this is what everyone goes through. They don't know what profile to make. So they make some weird profile, which I did. They post some random stuff, which I did. And, I posted the first thing and nobody listened. Nobody gave anything. Crickets,
Nothing
nothing.
happens at first.
Do you want a like or something? Nothing. Okay, I'll send another one. Nothing. And I kept going. I read stuff online, like what other people were posting, giving tips, and I kind of tried to follow some of that. I did okay in my first month, actually. Like I got to about 200 followers, and that was just like doing some engagement. Yeah, it was pretty good. And I posted at the time. I was just posting some weird stuff. Like I tried to post like a long form about myself. No one read it. It was some people read it actually. It was pretty good. And then I posted some like book like summaries, because I was like, what am I going to write about? I think it was interesting. Maybe I'll try to write it for other people. But my writing wasn't very good. Like I had some basics, but it was just like, it was not easy to read. And I kind of got to the end of those 4 weeks, and I went, okay, I need to I want to do something with this. I'm dedicating a lot of time. I want to take this seriously and go to the next level.
Right.
And obviously I'm working 9 to 5. So I went, okay, well, maybe I should try to hire a mentor. Like I'd never hired mentors in my life, but all the self-improvement stuff, I realized like actually if I hire a mentor, it might be, it'll help me fast track and transform the time I dedicate to something else and use that money to be able to, pay for that extra speed to fast track. Correct. And so I did. Hired a mentor and, someone who was like slightly ahead, who was like getting results. Touched base and said, hey, do you have a paid program? Would love to, sign up. And so I did.
Right.
And, immediate results, like that's like within a month, I just started to monetize. And then by that next month, I'd closed out four spots, which I had for my offer. And and obviously then you kind of scale up from there. But in the meantime, like I got addicted to like investing in mentors as well. So I went and bought more self improvement. So I think that stuff has also helped me get to my point, because there's always been moments of clarity that I've had through mentors, which I think prevented me from giving up or prevented me from slowing down.
Right.
Sometimes you just need that outside perspective, right? To tell you, hey, you need to do these different things. So
what to focus on, for sure. Yeah, very nice.
So yeah, that's
pretty
a bit of a longer version, but
right. Thank you. So in 1 month, you were able to get 200 followers already. And you're saying that your writing wasn't good. Okay, how did you improve it?
So just there's obviously the number one most important thing is that you keep doing it. Right. So that's one. So you have to do it. You can't become a better writer just by reading about writing. But you can become a better writer by reading about it. So I consumed content like from good writers and tried to like study how they write.
Right.
That's one. The other way is to get feedback. So I got feedback on my writing. So my mentor would like review my writing on a regular basis. So God bless, thank you to my mentor. But yeah, he'd like review that content, and then it was so good because that coaching to say, hey, like get rid of this stuff or make sure you move a bit faster with your content here. You can say this instead. Your hook needs to be different. Like all those things, like it takes practice. And so I kept doing that. So I wrote like something like 3 to 5 long forms every single week, and I got feedback on all of them. So they were all like refined heavily. Like at the start, it took me like sometimes 3 hours to be able to like craft one long form.
Wow, yeah.
But now, like, I could probably dish up if I spent 30 minutes on a long form, I know that it would do really well. Like that's the ability I have now because I put in all that work. The other thing is like I read books about like writing well as well. So literally there's a book called On Writing Well.
Yeah.
Which I recommend anyone who wants to write to read. It's a good one. Yeah. Well, you've got the copyright back there. Like, and it blew my mind when I read that book actually, because I had a love-hate relationship with writing before doing this.
Yeah.
And I say love-hate because I hated it because of school. Like they would always, force you to write like crappy things and
ruin all the fun.
They took away all the fun because they'd give you all these structures you need to follow. They would get you to pad out the writing because you have to hit arbitrary word counts of like 500 to 1,000 words. And so you're like, I'm going to add more words so then I can hit 1,000 words, And you almost were incentivized to make your writing more and more flowery because of word count. Because it was like, if your writing is really long, that means it's more authoritative. If anything, it was really stupid, right? But But then I say love because I always gravitated to writing. You know, that was something like even in my 9 to 5 job,
Yeah.
I found that I would be the one that would write blogs for the company. You know, like some of the thought leadership from our company, I would have write a lot of them.
Nice one.
Don't know why, I just gravitated to it. So even though I was not very good at writing, I just gravitated to it. So then, yeah, and then once I started doing it on X, and I've fallen madly in love with the craft, I would say.
Very cool. Next thing, I'm curious, you started to get following, you got a mentor. What were the steps from having content online, getting more followers, to actually crafting an offer and monetizing?
Yeah, good question. So I think from my 9 to 5 work, so I put together a lot of proposals for like big 7, 8, 9 figure corporates, like big corporate companies, right? And we do very bespoke work. When you do B2B, often is bespoke work.
Right.
And that's kind of good grounding because I learnt a lot there about how do you pitch an offer. And often it's not about pitching an offer. It's really just about matching, how much someone's willing to spend with what value you're willing to provide. And so it was like kind of a very, how would I say, like a match made in heaven almost, because when you're at the stage, as me starting out, you don't have a system in place or anything, right?
Yeah.
So you can be very free on your offer, actually. And that's how I actually got my first client. Like I actually, it was on the DMs, and I'd kind of just like find out what their problems are,
Right.
and then match that together with what I think I could provide and just put a price on it.
Nice.
And it just seemed reasonable for everyone. And then, it was, away we go. So I think I've learned, so I think that's helped me along the way to be able to know how to, I guess, sell. Like selling's got a really like negative connotation. And I don't think of myself as like selling. I just feel like it's more an exchange of value that
For sure. Yeah.
I do with people. And I think that helped a lot, to be able to monetize my brand basically.
Good one. Yeah, having a mentor makes perfect sense. And even still, you told me that crafting these long forms might take you 2-3 hours. How did you balance 9 to 5 family life and growing on social media?
So I'd be lying if I said that I was doing it well. Like so the only my answer to that was waking up at 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m. It'd be working on some Saturdays. Most Saturdays I'd be trying to be doing something like building the business. Some evenings I'd be doing some work as well. Yeah, so it's like my 9 to 5, and then it's sacrificing some sleep to do that.
Yeah.
And but then reining back every now and then when you go, oh, okay, I've pushed too far.
That's important too.
And to be honest, like in a way, there's real value. And I actually think when you have like a 9 to 5 or school or something, that urgency forces you to really focus and get shit done when you need to. You're almost more productive when you have that. Right now I have this kind of strange situation where I have more time on my hands that I didn't have before. And then human nature is, when you have something to do and you have this much time, you do it in this much time.
Right.
You have this much time, you do it in this much time. Like that's what, right? So now that I have this much time, I do it in this much time. And for those listening, it's like I'm obviously spreading my arms wider when I say more time. So I guess the answer to the question, there's that, and using like, productivity tricks or hacks, like that helps a lot.
Different
like Rian Doris, I don't know if you know him. He's got a YouTube channel where he talks about flow and productivity. But his stuff is like, I don't understand how like he gives all that away for free. But I learned a lot of that, from him. I have a timer which helps a lot. Like that
is a very good tool. Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Are you a physical timer guy?
I just use it on my Windows. I put a timer on, then I see it always on my screen also.
Yeah. That's why I like the physical timer, because it's on my screen. But I like that I can just, quickly, it's tactile, and you're like, you can see the, it's like you can see like that's how much time, that red.
Yeah.
And I can see it like go down, and I know that I need a push. There you go. Yeah, so that helps a lot. But I think the other part of it is having a strong why. Like, why are you doing it? You know, if your why is for crappy reasons, then I don't think you can do it. You know.
Yeah.
So, and look, I'm not judging others. I just think when I say crappy, I mean that when you're serving yourself, then I feel it's not as strong as when you're serving others.
Yeah.
Because I think that's how we are wired as human beings.
For
And
sure.
yeah, so my why, you know, it comes down to, well, I want my wife to have the option to work. Like, I think she does like to work, but I don't want her to work full time. And I've seen the toil it's had on her when she was like working like really full on at a company.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you know, it's very expensive to live here in Melbourne, Australia. And so we both need to work. And like, I kind of want to do something where she doesn't need to, you know, she doesn't need to. It's up to her. Like, if she wants to work, great, like, go for it. The secondary reason is that her parents run a restaurant and they're getting old. Like, they're, you know, like in their 60s.
Yeah.
They're at retirement, you know, stage where they should be looking at retirement, but they're not close to that at all because, you know, they've had some like business problems and exactly. And they've probably got, you know, a good maybe 10 to 15 years of decent health, you know, to really enjoy the last years, right? Before their health will deteriorate.
Right.
And so I really want to, you know, help retire them.
Those are beautiful. Yeah.
Well, exactly. So I think, you know, when you have those sort of things, it helps drive you to show up when you don't want to, you know.
Absolutely.
So you don't get complacent and, you know, force you to get up at 5 a.m. in the morning to write something. But thankfully I love writing as well. So like it helps. And that's maybe the last thing I would say. Sorry, I keep like adding more things, but the last thing I would say is you have to have fun. Like, you actually need to enjoy the stuff, you know.
For sure.
And that's maybe my almost a competitive advantage, you know. Like, if I didn't get paid for this, I think I would still really enjoy doing this, you know. And if you can do something where it's like money is a bonus, then you'll beat anyone who is doing it because they need to get paid to do it.
That's
Naval book, like, well, it's not his book, but like in the book Naval's almanac, which I recommend everyone read. You know, he talks about, you know, just doing stuff for the sake of it. You know, when you do things for the sake of it, it feels natural, you're in flow, you enjoy it, and then you really make it something special. And I think that's part of what I've been doing, you know, which is kind of given me that edge, for my account, or, you know, for my business.
That's a strong one.
Yes.
And your theme has been, since I've been following you, it has been led by authenticity.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you in practice, and what others can take from it?
Ooh, that's a really good question. You know, that's a question I ask myself as well whenever I try to like think about when I'm kind of stuck with like, oh, what am I going to post, or what am I going to email or something? I think, okay, well, what is that? Like, how do I make this authentic? I want to acknowledge and say that like there are other creators who are super authentic. You know, it's not like I'm the gatekeeper for authenticity, you know. There are probably more people that are way more authentic than I am, you know. But I think I try to have like a sense of authenticity in the way I do things, because naturally it just makes it so much easier to sell to a client.
Connect with people.
Or yeah, you know, this is why like all of my clients have come to me. Like, I haven't gone out to a chase or try to like, you know, DMs people. Nothing against cold DMs. Like, you can do cold DMs, but it's just like I don't have the time to do it, right? But you know, so they come to me. You know, they ask, like, I had someone ask me, they're like, so when are you going to pitch me? Like, I was DMing someone, and I was like, I'm not going to like, I don't need to pitch you. Like, when you're ready, when you want me to pitch you, like, you'll just tell me. Like, I don't need to pitch you. It doesn't make sense for me, right? And so, yeah, what does that mean to me? I think it's about showing more of yourself rather than telling people how to live. I feel like a lot of people use content on X, and nothing against it, but I feel like a lot of people think that the way to go about it is to like tell people how to live. But that content doesn't work unless you're, you know, Dan Coe, right? Like, Dan Koh can say, hey, everyone, you all need to go and walk 8 hours a day and sit under a tree and write for 30 minutes a day, and people are like, oh shit, I gotta do it.
Right.
But when let's say I do it, yes, I've got 3,000 followers, but still, it's kind of like, who the heck is Arnie? There's how many, 55 how many people? 500 million? No, 500 million people on X, right?
Right.
There's a good amount of people that have no idea who I am, and they'll kind of go look at that and go, why would I listen to you? Who the heck are you? And so, yeah, so I think instead of that, I take the approach of, how can you, instead of telling people how to live, how can you show people how to live? And showing is a different thing, because you show by showing your life, showing, hey, if I want to tell people, hey, you should just focus on one thing and just be consistent. Well, then instead of saying you should focus on one thing and be consistent, I say, well, here are the things that I've done. Here's the things that I've achieved. Therefore, you should be consistent. That's what's done. That's what's happened for me. I wouldn't write like that, but you kind of see the point that I'm saying. Yeah, and that content does so much better.
Yeah.
Right? Because people love to see other people's journeys and their stories. Absolutely. Because it's relatable. We're humans. We connect on stories. We're hardwired to stories.
Exactly. Yeah.
I sort of think of it as, the more you can share your story, and I don't mean having to write a beautifully crafted story, which, though in saying that, it's beautiful, if you can, but you don't need to. You can just present parts of your life and just show up every day and keep showing parts of your life. And then eventually, people then go, he keeps coming, and you build trust and familiarity. And then, yeah, people start liking you. It's a strange thing.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
What you said before, you didn't do outreach or pitch people. Let's talk about networking. What was your approach then? You get into DMs with people, you help them out, or how did it work?
Good question. So nowadays I have a lot less time to do DMs, because I'm juggling client work
for sure
now, and with such a big roster, it takes time. What I would say is, maybe I'll talk about starting out.
Yeah.
And I think everyone should take this approach when starting out, is to really take a heavy networking. Networking is such a shitty term, but it is networking, or connecting with people and connecting on a human level with others. I've met incredible people, like people like yourself, that we're doing, because there's so much potential when you build those networks. Because when you do that, they're the people that will support you in ways that you don't realize. I'll give you an example. Today I was on a call with this guy, and he was speaking to another person. I'm not sure about what, but they're like, all I needed to see was that Arnie Ho followed you. And that's all I needed to see.
Wow.
So I knew it was okay. And I was like, what the frick? What? That's such a weird thing. Just because I follow someone doesn't mean anything. But anyway, apparently it means a thing. So that's the sort of thing that happens when you build from the ground up, fundamentals, and actually build out a network. And that network then that's right. And if you treat people with have a growth mindset, with an abundance mindset, you just show kindness, try to treat everyone like a human being, respect them. I think that goes, and the brand is not just the account. The brand is what people speak, what people say about you, your reputation. That's the brand.
Yeah.
And so the more that you can, initially you might need to do one-to-one, but as you get bigger and bigger, then you start doing one-to-many, because more and more. But yeah, so I think that's the approach. And when I started, it was I thought it was so much fun. I'm an extrovert as well, which I don't know if you can tell. So I feed off the energy of meeting people. I mean, you seem very extroverted too.
Right.
And so you get what I mean, right? When I start speaking to people, I get into a role, and I'm pumped, and you can feel the excitement in my messages, because I'm just I'm vibing, I'm loving hearing that this guy's from Finland and he's moved to Spain, and there's other people who live in this weird part of North America. One of my first calls I did was with this 15-year-old boy who was trying to pitch me his video editing services. His name's Lasse.
Wow.
It was wild, from Norway. Yeah, I think from Norway. And yeah, he's DM me. He's like, hey, you want to jump on a call? And And I was like, what is going on? Like this guy's pitching, this kid is 15 pitching me right now. I didn't go with him. Now I'm not thinking about doing YouTube or anything or whatnot, but
Right.
yeah, that was one of my first actions, and it just blew my mind as to like
Yeah.
what is really out there on the internet.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the experience on X is so different from other social platforms. Like you don't at any other platform, no one ever like suggested, hey, let's have a call. Okay, like what? Video call with this stranger that just sent me a message, and it took me some time to actually be okay. Like, okay, at the first one I said no, let's just chat, and then you start talking with people, and it's actually cool, and you meet people from India, from America, from Australia, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, totally. The people, that was one of the things that surprised me when I was doing it. Like I was nervous starting because I thought I'd only heard really negative things,
Right.
which I think there is like
Mm.
out there, like negative things about like, people getting hate and being cancelled.
Yeah.
But I think on our little world of Money X, I kind of call it, that everyone's just like, everyone just has big dreams. They're driven. They're ambitious. They're supportive of one another. Like it really is a big community.
Yeah. And growing.
And a growing community. And I've that was one of the things that surprised me, and I've loved it really a lot.
Very nice. Now I'm curious, like you have this big roster. What is the day in life like now?
I'm still figuring that out, Mark, because I went away to Japan for a couple of weeks, so I took a break from everything, my clients, and just stepped away. I let my clients know. I gave them like different type of support at the time, and I stopped working 9 to 5 at the start of this month. So I only kind of had like a week of like transitioning, and then I went away to Japan. And then this week has been like my first, like I'm still in the middle proper week. And so I'm trying to figure out how to do it. I'm trying to carve out my mornings to be my best writing time, and then do calls, later in the day. That's been the day in the life so far.
Right.
I'm still figuring that out. The other thing I would say is I still do some work for my old company. So I haven't like detached completely. So I still have that work there, and the reason for that is I've got a mortgage, I've got a wife, child. If I didn't have all those obligations, I'd probably just go, I don't need the income, I'm out of here.
Right.
But I still I'm still want to make sure I've got something like to fall back on, and then we'll see what happens. Maybe transition completely.
What is required that you do the full jump? How many clients, or you have a income goal that you need to hit before you can say, okay, let me just focus on the social media. Let me just focus on my personal brand.
My wife has an answer for that. Her answer is basically like, if I can hit that 10K a month mark for 3 months in a row, then she'd feel a bit more secure about actually drop it completely and just go all in. But I've only hit that couple of months now, so it's kind of like
well, it's happening.
So I mean, look, I still need another month, so let's just hold your horses, because it's like at the end of the day it's a business, right? And so businesses have ups and downs, so it's not like it's all just going to be up all the way. And especially for a business like this, like it can be very volatile because of the fact that you're dealing with social media, and like there's an algorithm. If Elon Musk said all of a sudden the algorithms changed completely, then like your business model could just disappear overnight.
For sure.
I have an email list which helped, but then my business model still relies on X. So I've got to figure that out. Right. Social media is not going anywhere, and I think the fundamentals are still there, but that's something that I still need to be cognizant of.
I see. For your coaching clients, how much is it about mindset versus strategies and tactics?
I like to incorporate mindset and into the work, because I think it's so much to do with mindset. It's probably 80% strategy and tactics. That is the main thing, with about 20% around my mindset. But I kind of mix. So it's not like I'm just doing mindset now. It's like, if we're going to do sales,
Yeah.
Like the mindset on sales is not to be a salesperson. The mindset is actually to be a problem solver.
Right.
It's actually to be like a doctor, you know. So how can you treat this as how can I figure out the problem that you're trying to solve for this person? And then decide, can there be a value exchange because you can resolve that problem for them because they have a desirable problem they want to solve. So that's an example of like mindset. Mindset.
Yeah, makes
looking at
sense.
things.
Yeah, so you need to change a little bit how people see things like selling. You rephrase it and change how they perceive it in their minds. Like you're not asking people for money, but you're actually solving a problem for them. And in exchange, they give you money. So you kind of like do a little pivot.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, exactly right. Exactly right. And then the strategy and tactics is like, okay, well, that's cool, but how do you do that? And so the how you do that is like, okay, well, here's how you would have the conversation with someone. You know, you would
Right.
start by talking about XYZ. And then as you flow, then you go, okay, well, then you got to pitch. And then, well, then how do you pitch?
Right.
Yeah. That's like the strategy and tactics, right? And that's pretty important. But if you don't get the mindset right, then you can never adapt, you know, the strategy and tactics to what you're dealing with. Because
Exactly.
when you can do that, like I think that's when the magic happens.
For sure.
That's what I think the difference between good. I think I've never been in sales, like quote unquote sales role. I've done sales, but I've not been a salesperson. So my perspective is like, I think that is actually, you know, when you're really good at sales is when you're not even selling.
Yeah, it's more like consultation. Yeah. Let the other person speak and listen.
Exactly right. Yeah.
So now you have over a dozen clients. You're optimizing your X strategy, figuring out how it all works. What's next? What is going to happen in the next 6-12 months?
Big things ahead. I put target on my. I made a post the other day that my goal is to hit 30,000 MMR.
Nice.
30,000, and that's like the dream figure because that allows, like what I said, like allows my wife to choose not to work. It then opens the door towards actually helping my in-laws, you know, decide, like start winding things down if I can consistently hit that or thereabouts. Yeah. I'm not like, I don't have a big fancy like lifestyle. I'm not interested in cars. I don't like, I don't have expensive Rolexes or anything like that. Like I'm pretty bare minimum kind of guy. Like I don't spend money except for like maybe traveling or something, you know.
Right.
But, you know, traveling is like, it's not, you know, it can be quite affordable to travel these days. And even then, like I'm not, like I don't fly business or first class or something. So that's the goal, right? To get there, there's a few things planned. It does involve, at some point, I will be. Should I release all this stuff? Announce it? Like, okay, well, this is gonna be hot off the press. Like, I mean, this is super fresh. What I foresee is, or maybe I'll just be a bit more vague. Like, there's definitely going to be a lot more products and opportunities to work with me.
All right.
More broadly in the next 6 months as I kind of like work on the operations, you know, build out what I've had now, like some of the validation I've had, and extend it even further. So there's some big thoughts around that.
Very cool. That sounds like, okay, you have your experience by now with the typical problems your clients have, and you already have to prove yourself, like how to grow, how to build this thing. And it might sound like that there's perhaps group coaching coming or some digital courses.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to see. I have to do it. So yeah.
Also on that note, you are also on this stage like, okay, you still have 24 hours per day. How do you see going forward of delegating tasks and asking for help for certain things?
Yeah. So I've already hired a VA
Nice.
as an example. So that's like, and that's been, I'd be dying if I didn't have that at the moment. So that's been great. They've been helping me out there. I'll definitely be looking to reinvest more into the business because one of the things that I've learned, like when I talk about that urgency to get things done, right?
Yeah.
One of them is obviously having a 9 to 5. Then you're like, I've got no time. I really need to get this thing done. The other way to like make yourself get things done is when you reinvest your money into more help, whether it's like a VA or whether it's like a mentor, then you've really got to like get shit done, because you're like, I'm burning money,
Right.
on this. I can't just sit
There-
back, right?
Yeah,
But if
there
you're
has to
comfortable
be
and going,
a return. Yeah.
I've got cash thing, and so that's part of it. And then building your team. Like if I go, okay, well, I need to build my team. Then if I build my team, then again that pushes you to get off your ass and go do something.
For sure. It's an investment. You're expecting a return also.
Expecting a return, but that return also needs to happen from your own backside to go get it done. So
Absolutely.
and I would say I'm like not the hardest worker. I'm pretty lazy, so I need that kind of
I find it hard to believe, Arnie.
push. I think I'm lazy for the sense of like, if I don't like doing something, like I will try my hardest to like not do it. But if I really enjoy something, then it doesn't feel like work, and I can just get a lot of it done. So there's a need of like also not feeling like it's work, but thankfully I still enjoy this stuff quite a lot.
What I hear you saying, I think you're a visionary and a creative person, that to keep you going, you need to be doing something new.
Doing something new is definitely it's, I mean, I'm a visionary. I kind of feel like sometimes I'm not really a visionary. I feel like more of a, I don't know, but don't know what it is. But if you think it is, that's cool. I think you're right. There's definitely like I get bored easily. Like I need to have something interesting to like play around with. And,
Right.
and that's probably the backstory, is that I've always kind of dip my toes into something, and then it's new and shiny, and then I just started, and then I go, oh, this is getting a bit hard, so I just stop and then not do it. This is the first time in my life where I've actually stuck at something for a long, like 9 to 5. Obviously, I stuck at it, and I did pretty well, doing 9 to 5. But this is like probably one of the first times where I've stuck at something and just kept showing up, kept doing it. We'll go past the humps of.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still going through the humps, but there's many humps. But go through, like, if I think about in the past, I'd probably have given up a long time ago and said, nah, this is too hard. Like I probably would have given up after a month if, you were talking to me 1 year ago. But I'd done a lot of work on myself, my mindset, my perspective on work. I was convinced that if you stick at something and you keep working at it, that you can do something remarkable. What I didn't realize was that it would happen so quickly that I would be in this position, because I honestly, like in my journal, so I told you that 7-year goal, but then my 1-year goal was like maybe this time next year that I would be where I am now. So I'm almost a year ahead of what I thought I would be, which is wild.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Some of those measures, have been switched around. I mean, like, what would I know? Like at start, you can also argue like you know what you don't know what you don't know. So.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. At the start of the year, you had this mindset and energy. Like, how did you cultivate it? Because it takes a lot to actually push yourself day to day and like believe in yourself. Where did you get the energy?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I'm good at starting things. Like I can make things happen. Like that's, what I've always struggled with was like follow through and like keep going.
Right.
So I probably, my whole life leading up to now was probably, me learning from a lot of failure. And, if you ask my wife, like she'll say my biggest flaw has always been, I can get things started. I can, have all these creative ideas, these big visions of what to do. And then I'll start it and then I won't do anything with it. And she's like, you always talk a lot of big game and stuff, right?
Sounds familiar.
And this is the first, okay, well, there you go. But this is the first time in my life where I've actually gone, I'm going to stick at it. And the reason why I've stuck at it is because, like I said, like having a really strong why. And also like, I think my thinking has evolved to a point where I see the value of being able to just stick to that one thing and just pushing it through.
For sure. That's a good segue to let's talk for beginners for a bit. Like as you know, there's a lot of people coming to X, and there's a lot of growth in the creator economy, a lot of interest in solopreneurship, and many people want to start, and they all have different backgrounds. What is your advice for person who wants to start on X and building their personal brand?
Don't do it. No, I'm kidding. Like what would I say? Geez, there's a lot of things. First thing comes off
like straight off the top of my mind is having a strong why. Like, why are you doing this? That
Yeah.
can carry you quite far. Number two is guard against burnout, because burnout, I've come to realize, is very real. That was part of why I actually went away to Japan, because
Yeah.
I was, teetering at just at really burning out, and it's hard to recover, if you do burn out. Like, I've seen
Yeah.
people who burnt out and had to take a break from X, lost motivation,
Yeah.
which is a pity because they built such a great foundation, and
Right.
they come back and they're a little bit embarrassed, and you start
Yeah.
having these like demons. It's probably true. And then I think number three is like, you really need to like ask yourself, this comes back to why, but ask yourself whether you really want to do it. Because yes, there is the dream of solopreneurship, of like freedom,
Yeah.
but it's also not free in the sense of, the whole, your ability, the value of working 9 to 5 or not working a job necessarily is that you don't have to carry the burden of like, is this business going to stay afloat? Can I
Yeah.
keep this up?
Yeah.
That's what the business owner has to deal with, that you work for. The people who are paid for that, with that accountability for the business, they get rewarded handsomely because they carry that burden.
Yeah.
And so you've got to ask yourself, are you willing to carry that burden? Because that becomes a big reason why people burn out,
For sure.
because they can't carry that. And
You become your own
and so you've got
boss.
to, well, you become your own boss, but you can also, you know, it can consume you.
Exactly.
But that's where like having healthy boundaries and all those things are important. So that would be the other thing to consider. And if I were to give like a tactical or strategic one, honestly, like learn to write. Like that will take you a long way, not just on X, but just everywhere if you
Yeah.
can write well. So do this and get the writing done well. And the second one is like, surround yourself with great people. So it means go and meet more people, like get to know people in the DMs, get to know people. Because you're like, yeah, they say what your network is your net worth. Like that is undoubtedly true, because
Yeah.
having a reputation just carries a long way. Like I don't know if you saw, there's an account, Joshi Pasta, for those
Ah, yeah, yeah.
he's
I saw his stuff.
growing X account, at
Yeah.
the moment. And, he's done a really great job. But his account got banned. Like it got taken away from him completely. I think he
Yeah.
hit about 800 followers.
Yeah.
But because he built such a great network, that new account is a way to like, I think, nearly 300 followers. And he's only had it for like a week, maybe. He hit 100 followers in a day, and that was only because of a network, that he'd built. Like he'd built a reputation with people where people acknowledged him and
Right.
felt, oh wow, like is real and is genuine, and they were willing to support him because they felt that injustice.
Yeah.
So I think that goes to show the power of building community and trying to get to know people. So yeah, those are the things I think are
That's
important.
Yeah, a very strong one. It's not about following, it's community. It's people.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's good. Good soundbite. I'm going to steal that.
For sure, those are very good tips. You're a very good communicator. How can people learn that?
It's hard because I do that in my job. So I actually started working. My first full-time job was what? Call center work.
Oh, yeah.
So I learned to talk. I didn't do sales, I did inbound, but
Mhm.
I learned to talk early on, and I've naturally had to do a lot of public speaking, training, facilitation. So I've got a bit of an edge in terms of being able to communicate. It's similar to writing. I
Yeah.
feel like at the same time, because I've become a better writer, I've become a better thinker, and it's allowed me to become a better communicator.
Mhm.
And so if you work on your writing, your communication will be better as well. Though if you want to get better communicating, you actually got to do it. You just got to do it.
Yeah.
And, one of the ways that did help me, I did try YouTube for a period of time. I think I told you that
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
on
We
messages
talked
that
about it. Yeah.
I tried, during COVID, I tried to post 90 videos for 90 days. So
Wow.
one video a day.
That's a big
I was
challenge.
bored, right? There was nothing else to do. It was a big challenge. I didn't realize at the time.
Yeah.
And these are like videos that I actually edited and tried to do the whole thing. I've come to learn how freaking hard that is. I think I gave up some around nearly 50, maybe.
Wow.
I did it nearly 50 days probably. And I just went, I can't, like, this is killing me. And it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing random stuff. I was
Yeah,
super random. I took down a lot of videos because they were just so cringe.
it feels like, yeah.
But there's something about learning to speak in camera,
Yeah.
speak to the camera that and if you have to edit your own videos, makes you work really hard at speaking clearly, because if
It's
you
true.
don't, then you're the one paying for it. So I mean, at least that's what I found. Like, if
Yeah.
then I'd be like, oh my gosh, like, why did I take so long to say this thing? Or like, I communicated that poorly. Now I have to edit that shit. So
Yeah.
like, that's like, if you want to get good at that, you should actually try speaking to in front of a camera, record yourself, communicate to the camera, um, put that content out there, and
Perfect.
it'll force you to get good.
That is a really good tip. That is amazing. And I can completely relate with that. It takes you a lot of time to become good, to find your words and like how you present yourself. And everyone is a little critical how they sound and how they look. So it's a very good exercise to watch your own videos and like just work through it.
Watching your own videos, yeah. There's a dude that I follow on, well, I haven't followed for a while. I actually can't remember his name. Vin something. He's an Australian guy,
Okay, yeah.
and he's a communicator, like public speaking, like communicator, and he gives some tips. And one of the tips that he talks about is actually, yeah, recording yourself. Just like speak for like a minute, record that, and then watch back, and then just take a pen and just mark down what are the things that you did wrong, and then do it again.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, I haven't personally done that, but I could definitely see how that would improve you, because I've seen before where I've just watched myself and then gone, oh,
I
okay,
wish I did something different.
I need to hold myself.
Yeah.
I need to
Yeah.
do something different.
Yeah.
That's part of it. But the other side of it as well is you've got to really believe in what you say too.
Yeah.
Like, when you have a passionate message that you just want to share with someone,
Yeah.
then that also makes it so much easier to communicate,
For sure.
because you
For
just
sure.
feel it. And,
Yeah.
and communication is the one thing to remember is that communication is what, like 30% verbal,
Mhm.
70% is non-verbal.
Yeah.
It's my expression, it's my hand gestures, it's how
So much
excited I
more.
get, the
Yeah.
tone, like, it's not actually the words all the time, though the words matter, but not as much as all those other factors. And so, but when you really believe in the message and you get it out there,
Yeah.
then all those non-verbal cues start coming
Absolutely.
into play.
Yeah, yeah. Video it's brutally honest. Like because people they're tuned in. Like they can read your energy, they can read your intentions and motivations. Everything comes through the video. On a photo you can kind of cheat. On writing you can cheat a little bit. Like you can just kind of fabricate it. But you need to feel it on the video to make it realistic.
Yeah. That's
100%.
That's a very good one. And as you said about Vin, I've did that couple of times that I made the first video and I hated it. It was horrible. And then I'm like, okay, this is all the things I need to fix. And then I make the second one and it's always like night and day. So of course it takes more time, but it's absolutely worth it.
That's amazing. Well, there you go.
yeah.
Yeah, you proved it.
I'm curious, you have now a very, very good solid community in X. Do you have plans to build an audience also on other platforms like LinkedIn or go back to YouTube?
Maybe YouTube at some point. I did think about that.
Yeah.
I will definitely be going to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So that's coming down the line. Yeah, so we'll see. I think YouTube is definitely down the path at some point, because I do enjoy video,
Right.
but I need to figure out when it makes sense for me to to dedicate that time, because I don't have all the time in the world.
Yeah.
Right now I kind of need to, if I work on a lot of the foundations, then it will create time, I think, for me to be able to
Yeah.
shift into something like more of YouTube. But LinkedIn, I think, is low hanging fruit. Like, there's an untapped market, I think, for my services that I
Yeah.
could be doing on there. It's just a little bit scary because I already have a presence on LinkedIn from my corporate world.
It's a little different.
And so, well, yeah, it's like, okay, I'm all of a sudden I'm, building personal brands and building audiences and monetizing audiences. It's like, wait, isn't like a management consultant? Like, what's he doing talking about this stuff? So anyway, well, I don't care. We'll deal with it. I just need this. As I say, just send it.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where also I will be, and potentially YouTube. We'll see.
Very good. I'll be watching all your videos.
I'll be in touch with you if I start YouTube. Don't worry.
Very good. Yeah, I realize even for myself, I realize it has to be highly optimized process for video creation because otherwise it's such a time dump. It's unsustainable. So what I'm actually building right now is how to make it as easy as possible with AI, with scheduling platforms that you can just edit as quickly as possible, create the video, create the asset, and repurpose it everywhere. Like because if that system is not optimized, it's you spent the whole day doing one video and then you're completely done.
Yeah, and for what? What's the return on investment unless you're,
Yeah.
unless you're like Mr. Beast, sure, but if you don't have all the upfront capital, it's like, how do you make it work?
Absolutely. Okay, if people want to connect with you, how can they find you?
Well, obviously they can find me on X, and that's probably the main place. So find me on X, shoot through a DM or something, and yeah, let's chat. But yeah, that's probably so far that would be the main place. I don't check my LinkedIn, so don't message me there. I've had people who go, "I followed you on LinkedIn." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." It's just like I can't stand LinkedIn, to be honest. Oh, but I need to get over that.
Okay, to finish off, you have a message you want to leave with the audience?
A message sleepers, I like probably, treasure every day. Like every day is a miracle. If you can, breathe air today, it is a beautiful thing. And so I think more people need to appreciate what we have rather than what we don't have. Even though it's in our wiring, but the more we can do that, the better we show up in our lives. And when we show up better as a father or as a parent, as a brother or sister, as a friend, or even a colleague, the better we show up, I think the better the world will be.
Yeah.
And the best thing is, when you show up happy and kind to others, it's completely free, and
Yeah.
it has huge returns on investment. So I know it's hard, like people have tough situations, but having that perspective helps, I think, a lot to get through that.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good message. Okay, thanks. Thank you a lot, Arnie. It was a powerful talk. We covered a lot of topics. And yeah, like keep growing. You're doing an amazing job. And thanks to Danko and the big ones because they are creating this whole new economy that is just starting and
Yeah.
it's gonna be huge in a few years.
Yeah, it really is. It's crazy. It's so nuts. But yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for having me on.